Hey everybody, welcome back. This is episode 2 of the G Squared show. That's right, G Squared. Yesterday I told you guys, that the first G stood for gratitude. So I'm grateful that you are back with me here for a second day. What everything presents us with is an opportunity for gratitude. And the second G for today, which is growth. Or growth is being able to learn something from every opportunity, every encounter. I always tell people every relationship teaches. For me, part of growth was growing to a place where I would go into situations that I knew would trigger me emotionally and be okay with that. This is going to happen and I'm okay with the people I'm around. Seeing that, knowing that, and not having an issue with what I'm going to feel and what I'm going to express. Another major part of growth, I think, is being able to deal with discomfort and what it produces. I did my first marathon a couple of years ago. Honestly, my favorite part of doing a marathon was the growth. When you come to the end of your strength, when you come to the end of your ability to do something in a way that kind of gives people the idea that you got it under control is what I call it. So in this full marathon that I always tell people my self-respect left at mile 14. And at mile 14 was when it became really obvious that I would not be able to continue this race without like openly crying loudly, without without it really showing that one, I was in pain, two, I was frustrated, I was tired, I was ready to be done. And I knew I had committed to going much further, so I was not done. But the strength that I had stored up was gone, so I had to push past that. I had to grab onto something that was unfamiliar. I had some awesome race volunteers who I'll say came to the rescue because there was no way, in my mind at least, that I would have finished this thing without some people just being nearby. There were some awesome strangers who would just come out at exactly the right time and be like, hey, you can do this, like, you're doing great, I'm proud of you. Like, random people, drunk and sober, like, that just really wanted to encourage me that day, and I needed it. It was clear that I needed it. It was obvious, and the great thing was I needed it and I received it. Under normal circumstances, I usually have most things under control. In this situation, I pushed past all the resources that I normally have in my repertoire, and I literally had to lean, not physically, but emotionally, mentally, on other people saying, you got this, yes you can, okay, you got it, just keep it moving. And when I got to the finish line as the final finisher, man, tears, just so much excitement, so much joy, because I pushed past something to bring something out of myself to be able to achieve something. Well, you cannot stay comfortable your whole life and grow. They don't go together. Like, comfort and growth don't go together. Like, if you're gonna grow, you're gonna get uncomfortable. I think every situation has a potential for growth, because in every situation you have the ability to learn something about you, about the world, about your purpose, about everything. And so what we have to always remember is growth is what makes us stronger. Growth is that digging in. Growth is that stuff that it takes to take care of yourself, to be aware of yourself, whether that be your health, your mental status. Like, sometimes we really have to be aware of ourselves. What sorts of things are you responding to? It's not always somebody else. Sometimes it's you. It's your trigger. It's something that's raising up in you that you feel like, oh, I'm responding to a thing, but I'm not responding to this thing. Having a conversation with a person that I'm close to about a situation that doesn't come up often, but it was just a thing where it was like, hey, I'm gonna call you after this thing. Okay, cool. Hey, I was supposed to call, but I'm gonna call you after this thing. Okay, cool. Maybe a few days later, oh yeah, can I call you? Sure. Okay, I'm gonna do it right after this. And it was like, oh, can I call you tomorrow? Cool. And then after a few more times, and I was like, hey, listen, just for full transparency, when you keep doing that, when you keep, saying you're going to do something and not doing it and kind of just putting it off, sometimes that triggers some old sensitive areas of like just feeling unimportant. So my triggered gut reaction is to say, you ain't never got to call again. Okay, it's just like that. It'll just come out just like that. Don't even worry about it. You ain't got to do nothing. Now, usually when something like that comes out, I know myself enough to know that, hold on, is this even about this, or is this about something else that has a different root to it? Like, yeah, this behavior might have made you think about this, but when you really think about the current situation you're in, this person isn't being malicious. This person isn't doing this to harm you. That this person isn't even realizing, what is happening. It's not an issue of irresponsibility. This same person you'll talk to for hours on a stretch. Like, so it's not an issue of you never talk to this person or this is a constant behavior. But the few times that this happened and you had this response, wait a minute, we still need to work on this. Let's look back at this. Is this like an aftershock of something that just kind of is still there that you haven't fully uprooted? Or is this you're still really here? Like, normally, if I will address something like that directly, and most of my friends, thankfully, are very patient and loving, and they are used to me saying, hey, man, you know what, this kind of triggered this thing in me, and I know that's not what you're trying to do. Like, it's not personal, and I'm not trying to react to you like that's what you were trying to do. I'm just telling you, like, my feelings in this moment, or if I feel myself reacting to somebody real passive aggressive, which is not my normal way of operating. My normal way of operating is usually quite direct, but there are times when if I'm feeling a certain way, I will have a tendency to kind of mechanize passive aggressive responses. And so what I've learned to do is even when I catch it, like usually when I catch it, it's like I've actually written them down, like passive aggressive things I say. And usually what it means and what I need to do in response. Because growth means I can't blame everything that happens on what somebody else did. What I have to be aware of is if this happens and I respond like this, or even if I'm motivated to respond like this, I have to check me and say, hey, wait a minute. Who are you responding to? Are you responding to the lady at the cash register? Or are you responding to your grandma who used to be all rough with you that you didn't like? You know what I'm saying? Like, who are you responding to? Taking care of yourself, being aware of yourself, allowing yourself to be vulnerable and uncomfortable, and for the sake of growing, not just accepting negativity and abuse. That's not the same thing. Accepting others and their strengths, their weaknesses, not as negatives, but just as what is, and managing your own expectations. After that comes the ability to be able to change, because I don't believe you can adopt outward behaviors that are going to cause you to grow before you adopt inward behaviors. You can have a whole lot of external change, but that's not growth. External change is not equal growth. So making sure to focus on the growth that has to happen below the surface, the growth that has to happen underneath all this, the growth that has to happen outside of the spotlight. So when you commit to doing that, I think everything else falls in line. So yeah, G squared show, take care of yourself, be aware of yourself, be grateful, man, and don't pass up the chance to grow. All right.